The words used to describe USC running back MarShawn Lloyd: explosive, big play threat, and 3-down back. Jagger, what do you see when you watch MarShawn Lloyd on film?
Elite burst, and this gets overused a lot, but he legitimately can stop and start on on a dime. And what translates the most, I think, is his cutback. When we see more and more zone running games, this guy's cutback is like teleportation level. I've seen him legitimately. I looked at it. It was a good 5 yard jump cut that was again vicious. And then on top of that, with that being said, that he could be good in zone. One thing that he could really improve on is just he follows his blockers almost to a fault. When you see a huge hole, and I've seen this clip pop up on Twitter a lot where he missed a hole, he's just following his blocker. And again, that's good for a gap scheme, but all he needs to do is get coached. Is when you see the daylight, just run towards it. On top of that is the receiving ability. That's again stuff that scores us fantasy points and things that make you a 3-down back. And every time he gets that ball in his hands, to me, lightning happens. He's lightning in a bottle, whatever idiom or overused phrase you can use for scouting.
Yeah, you mentioned that lateral agility. I think we should call him Nightcrawler. The way this dude just teleports back and forth, left to right, making guys miss behind the line of scrimmage and in space. It's fantastic. And also you love to see that for a guy that's 5'9", 220 pounds. This is not one of these little scat backs. This is a guy that if he needs to, he can run over a defender. Now we don't see that often enough. And I think that is something that I would like to see him do a little bit more, especially at his size. But to have that agility at that size is fantastic. And the thing that I just always a sucker for is a creative runner with excellent footwork. He finds those cutback lanes, Jagger, like you talked about. And I think what ends up happening here is that he does get a little bit of those inconsistent reps where he wants to just bounce runs outside. He tries to do that far too often. And that's something that we saw a lot with actually Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall as they were coming into the league, is that they were always just trying to make the big play instead of getting what was in front of them all the time. And so that's one of those weaknesses that it might follow MarShawn Lloyd into the next level, but it is something that can absolutely be coached out of a player, no problem. Now let's take a look at the Football Guys rookie guide profile here for MarShawn Lloyd. Why don't you break that down for us, Jagger?
Well, strengths, we've already talked about it. 3-down ability. Again, he did a lot of pass blocking. There's a lot of that on tape because when you're standing next to Caleb Williams, you're going to be doing a lot of that. Then it's scheme versatile. Granted, I said that he works a little bit better in the gap because of the way he follows his blocker, but to me that is very coachable, and any quality NFL coaching staff could get this guy in there and make him a star. Then it's efficient runner and big plays. And again, I agree with everything in our scouting guide right now because we talk about this cutback. Again, I'm going to talk about it a third time because of how crazy it is if you leave him a little bit of room, it's a touchdown every time. And this is things that we see out of players that we already like. Jahmyr Gibbs, I know it gets a lot of hate, but DeAndre Swift is still a very good player. And if he gets that wiggle room, it's a home run. And then where he struggles is the ball security thing. And that's a big deal for a running back. But again, it's incredibly coachable. And then he needs to be a little bit more patient when he waits for his blocks. And to me, it's, again, Alfredo said the perfect word. It's inconsistency, and a thing that a coach could probably fix. And then the long-term health of his knees. It's always a problem with these young running backs. They have a low shelf life. And then anytime you see an injury in their college profile, it can hold pause. But that's not something that we can really project. So if anything, that's a weakness I'm willing to look past.
I think the thing that you mentioned there that worries me the most could be that ball security. When you do the math, he had a fumble once every 36 rushing attempts, which is worst in the class. And we know NFL head coaches do not like for their running back to put the ball on the ground. Like you said, that's something that can be easily coached up. We've seen players go from having fumbling problems to not fumbling at all in a year. So like these are things that can obviously be fixed at the next level. And I think what makes, some of these things more coachable, like being able to follow his blockers a little bit better and fix those inconsistencies, is when you have a player that has really good athleticism. When you take a look at the RAS, or the relative athletic score for MarShawn Lloyd, I almost called him Marshawn Lynch. I almost did it, but for MarShawn Lloyd, It's a 9.29 relative athletic score. And what really stands out here is the straight line speed. It's the final 20 yards of that 40-yard dash. It was in the 90th percentile speed score for a guy at his height and weight. That is fantastic to be able to see a guy at 220 pounds that can hit a top speed like that. He may not be everyone's RB1, but he's certainly in the running. And I know that we're not the only ones that feel like he can be in that upper echelon of these rookie running backs. Now, if you want to take a look at more scouting profiles on the Football Guys Rookie Guide, just click the link in the comments down below and you can download the 2024 Rookie Guide with over 150 plus prospects in it. Now, Jagger, what did the analytics say? The NFL is looking for playmakers at running back here, right? Less and less teams are using workhorse backs. We need guys with big play ability in the NFL. What makes MarShawn Lloyd a big playability running back?
And you nailed it. We don't have like as many workhorses anymore, so you need to do the most with 12 to 15 touches, and MarShawn Lloyd fits that profile. Again, shout out to Jay Stein and the work that he does for us because he breaks down the stats that matter. 56.7% of his runs went for 15 yards or more, 7.1 yards per attempt, and that's the second highest in the class. So again, if you're going to get 15 yards, I want you to rip off the most, or excuse me, 15 touches. I want you to rip off the most with those 15 touches. And then 3.97 yards after contact. That's the rare case where his size does show along with that explosive ability. And then PFF graded him as the most elusive back. If the peripherals tell us anything, is we could have a stud on our hands.
And the thing that like stands out to me here, right, is we talk about how the NFL is no longer using these workhorse running backs. MarShawn Lloyd was not really a workhorse running back in college, and he showed that with limited touches, he didn't need to get into a rhythm to make plays. He was able to do that. That's what stands out here. When you look at the numbers, you really dive into the metrics. So I'm glad we went over that there. Now let's take a look at the Dynasty Rookie Draft Average Draft Position, or ADP. Once again, we mentioned him before, Football Guy's own Jay Stein. He's the guy behind like everything here going. But at Jay Stein, he's been running a bunch of 5-round rookie Superflex mock drafts, giving us exclusive rookie draft ADP for you. Now, MarShawn Lloyd, going as pick 209 in rookie drafts currently. That's got him around RB5 when it comes to average draft position, or 21st overall in rookie drafts. That's gone up nearly 6.5 spots over the last couple weeks. I think a lot of people were really happy with the NFL Combine, and I think that as we get closer to the draft and depending on landing spot, that's going to change even more for dynasty managers. Now, if you want to go and check out these average draft position numbers, these are updated weekly on footballguys.com. We've got the link for you in the comments down below. Jagger, let's head on over to our dynasty rankings. Amongst the rookies, where do you have MarShawn Lloyd ranked in the rookie running back class?
He's the RB4 for me, and he's just in that tier of last guys that I think are team independent. I mean, they can go anywhere and earn some touches. So I'm pretty bullish on him.
Yeah, I've got him just ahead of you. I've got him at RB3, and I think you're right. I think there's about maybe 4 running backs, maybe 3 in this class that are kind of team independent, right? Like they can go anywhere, get a majority of touches, and still be pretty productive for fantasy football. Now, when we kind of zoom out, we get away from the rookies and we just look at dynasty and the landscape in general. Where do you have MarShawn Lloyd ranked amongst all of the dynasty running backs?
Still pretty bullish. He's a borderline RB2 for me still. And that's, again, me having that much belief in the prospect. I got him at RB25. I love youth at running backs. A lot of that is a little bit how I build my teams. But again, when you want a guy that could do the most with limited touches, he fits the bill for me. And again, we joked about it, in a separate chat that everyone likes their different kinds of flavors. And MarShawn Lloyd, he's a pink starburst for me. So.
Is Pink Starburst the good one? I don't know. What's the Pink Starburst?
It's universally the most elite flavor out of all the Starbursts.
I'm, as you can see, not a Starburst guy over here.
Oh,
sorry to disappoint. I've got him at running back 27. I don't know what flavor of Starburst that makes him, but yeah, I'm just 2 spots below you. I've got all the rookie running backs clustered in the same spot. For Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, MarShawn Lloyd, Jalen Wright, all these guys are kind of in the same area for me. And I think you can make arguments depending on their landing spots that some of these guys can go ahead of older veteran running backs, like maybe a Nick Chubb with coming off of an injury, or let's say Austin Eckler, let's say Derrick Henry, let's say some of these guys that are a bit older. I think there's an easy argument for these rookies to be ahead of some of those guys in Dynasty.
No.
Now, for all of our rookie, Dynasty, redraft, best ball, all of those rankings, you can go check those out over on footballguys.com. That link is in the comments down below. And I want to let you guys know, our YouTube channel is going to be filled with rookie scouting profiles just like this. Tons of NFL draft, dynasty, fantasy content all throughout the offseason. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of them. We'll see you next time.